Hello everyone and welcome to Coin Bureau Clips. Now, I know a lot of you have been keen for a long time to hear from some of my colleagues here at Coin Bureau because, let's face it, you're all heartily sick of me by now. So I'm very pleased to announce that I've been able to tempt one of our key people here at the Bureau to come and talk to me today. Now, Nick here is absolutely integral to the running of Coin Bureau, and I should also say he is an extremely busy man. So I've really had to beg him to come and talk to me, but he's managed to find a window in his schedule to talk to me today. So before we dig into what it is that Nick does here, and believe me, he does a lot. Before we dig into all of that, let's find out a bit about his background because, yeah, Nick has had an interesting career up to now. So, Nick, first of all, thanks for talking to me today.
Pleasure to be here.
Like I say, I know you're a busy guy. Yeah. Let's start off let's address the elephant in the room first. I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of the stuff online. Yeah. Are you, in fact, the banker behind the Bureau?
I mean, there is a part of me that actually still wants to remain a non behind the scenes so that I can continue reading some of the hilarious conspiracy theories that are put out there on the forum posts and on the videos occasionally. But no, unfortunately not. I'm just a guy in shorts and a t-shirt who enjoys crypto. And, I guess I've been behind the scenes all the time just because I'm a little bit camera shy, but obviously there's nothing to hide, so I thought I'd come out and say hi to the fans, and here I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, would a banker dress like this?
I mean, it is Dubai, This is the banker look in Dubai.
Yeah, man. Okay, so in all seriousness, you do have a TradFi background, don't you?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I did work in banking, investment banking, quite some time ago. So I think that you can never really appreciate how the traditional financial system works unless you've been within the four walls of an entity at the coalface of it. So, yes, I worked in investment banking and it was a really interesting experience. I learned a lot of things from some very smart people. I worked at a lot of different asset classes and in a structuring role, helping to structure solutions for clients. It was an interesting experience. Obviously, it's a bit of an analyst level within a bank. You're in a bit of a pressure cooker, but you do learn a lot. And it was a formative time of my life for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and so when has that been your kind of whole career? When you left university, did you go kind of straight into banking?
I went straight into banking. Yeah. So I've always wanted to get into finance. It was what I studied, and I wanted to get into a role within an investment bank. And that was the first job out of university. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that begs the obvious question of why did you leave?
Okay. Well, I mean, I suppose there are a few things. Obviously, you did learn a lot within an investment bank. But there's many of these times that I thought to myself, whilst I was working there, am I really building something or working on something that's broadly beneficial to society in general? You ask yourself also, is this an industry that has a longevity? So is it an industry that is evolving? I look to my seniors at least 10 years ahead of me. Do I want to be in their position in 10 years? With a very narrow skill set that narrows as you get more professional within a bank. And then also more generally, I think investment banks these days are very big, massive organizations. And as such, as a corporate, they have a very hierarchical structure. Mm-hmm. So career progression is very much determined by, obviously, a lot of office politics. That wasn't really my MO. I didn't necessarily enjoy that aspect of it. But then more broadly, I think just generally, it's the work you were doing, although it was dynamic and it was an opportunity to learn. It was just a question of, do I really want to be helping pushing spreadsheets, pushing numbers and paper and developing pitch decks, or do I want to be working on something that's more, transformative, evolving, something that's a new industry and a new technology. Mm-hmm. So what I did then after about 3 years, I thought that was my time done. I think most people, there's a large component of people who work within banks and they have that 3 year, I'm going to go through the trial by fire in an investment bank and then I'll go and either work in private equity, hedge fund, venture capital or startups. I chose the startups, and I wanted to go into my own startup and be my own boss and work on something that, in an industry that was growing. Just move away from the corporate lifestyle. And then after 3 years, I decided to move into the startup space. I worked on a few different startup ideas within that period, some more successful than others. It's obviously a different type of dynamic completely from working in an investment bank and corporate in general. Obviously, I think it's a lot more stressful, but it's a lot more exciting, obviously, because of what you are building. That was basically my trajectory within the bank and then out of the bank. Yeah.
Okay, so you've left banking. You're letting your sort of entrepreneurial spirit run wild, as it were, and so you're working in kind of various startups. Now, at some point in this time, you discover crypto.
Yeah. Well, actually, I discovered crypto twice, right? So one time the first time was when I initially dismissed it, and the second time was when it all clicked. So the second time was when I was working in the startup, and I'll come to that. But perhaps let's roll back to when I first discovered crypto. So it was way back in 2011, and I was at that stage still at university, and I was at an internship at, surprise, surprise, an investment bank. And one of the tasks we were given, we were given projects to present to the banking team, right? My topic was on Bitcoin. Now, this is back in 2011, right? So there wasn't a lot of information out there. It was still relatively new. I had to go and do the digging. Obviously, I read the white paper. And it was fascinating to me, the fact that you could actually legitimately have a permissionless, decentralized, peer-to-peer cash that is not issued by a centralized authority, monetary authority, an actual internet money. Obviously downloaded the core wallets, played around with it, and used it on a practical level. So I did the presentation, obviously presented it, did well with that. But there was always this question I had, like, okay, is this really going to become a decentralized medium of exchange? Like, will this money really succeed?
It's a nice idea.
It's a nice idea, exactly. Yeah. Practically, can you see it being the digital cash of the future? And at that stage, I thought, look, no one was really accepting it. I think the first transaction happened in 2010 or something, but I didn't really, I read about that, but it was still novelty at that stage. And I thought, look, it's never really going to, I don't think this is really going to evolve to become a new medium of exchange. I don't think it's really got that many legs. And if it does, then a country can just, a central bank can just come or a country will do, they're not going to allow a digital or currency they can't control to challenge their authority. So I dismissed it at that stage. But then the second time now, so I didn't buy anything, unfortunately, as well.
I was going to ask, did you buy Bitcoin in 2011?
Unfortunately, no. God, how things would have been different. We would have been shooting this on a yacht. No, I didn't. But then again, in 2016, I was working on a different startup at that stage, and I needed to buy something online. It wasn't drugs.
Okay, clear that up.
It was actually a domain for one of the startups, and while I was on checkout, I saw the option was to pay via crypto, Bitcoin.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, now wait a second. This technology that I read about, so many years ago is now actually been used in commerce. They're actually willing to exchange a good and service for this currency. And then I thought, okay, now I want to go and do a bit more digging on it. And now this is 2016. So obviously, a lot more has happened.
Yeah.
A lot more resources are available. Ethereum ICO happened just a year before. The DAO hack happened a few months before. So it was really a dynamic time in the industry. Bitcoin was, worth now, still less than $1,000, but a lot more than from when I initially, read about it. And then it was like, it is the proverbial rabbit hole, right? Because once you get that little hit, you go down and dig, and then I was fascinated by the technology, fascinated by the Ethereum protocol, fascinated with what it could potentially become. And then layers and layers below that, and I just fell down that rabbit hole. And ever since then,
It's a great story, isn't it? And it's interesting because you were in that unique position really when you first discovered it as well. Because I guess you're working in traditional finance, you're working at an investment bank and stuff. You're kind of right in the crucible of where this sort of thing would, I guess, be dismissed by most people? I mean, was that, were people talking about it where you were working?
At the time I was there, not so much. Okay. It was between from say 2013 to 2015, right? It was Ethereum ICO happened sometime after I left, so it wasn't really talked about that much. Obviously, in very small, limited circles, but it definitely didn't hit the mainstream on TradFi. I can't remember too many conversations I had with anyone at the bank about it, which just shows that, why the fact that now banks are actually trading cryptocurrencies, they've got desks dedicated to it. It's like fascinating how, now it's really been taken seriously. Then I suppose most bankers would have also just hadn't heard about it. It would have been like a currency that's not controlled by a government. How does it even work? You can even go back and look at some of the old CNBC interviews in those days where they interviewed some otherwise quite intelligent bankers or financial individuals, and they would just dismiss it outright for numerous reasons. It's not backed by something, it's highly volatile.
Everyone asking that question, isn't it? It's like, well, what gives it value? What's it backed by and stuff? Yeah. And I guess it's divided into those people who got beyond that, who answered that question.
Yeah.
And those who sort of stuck at that level, and I mean, there are still plenty of people who've never got past that.
Never got past that. But also at that stage, so what was it? 2013 was when the Silk Road was big, right?
Yeah.
So obviously at that stage, it was the whole narrative was Bitcoin is a dark web money, a money that's used by all the nefarious purposes people always usually associate cryptocurrency with.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you read about it, right? If you'd done the research in 2013 or something, you could have had that similar perception. But yeah, at the time I did this, the second time I looked into it, which was 2016, there was a lot more excitement around it, at least generally in the space, because of what happened with Ethereum and the DAO hack.
Yeah.
And just like, and then also it was just when altcoin just started to become a thing, because Ethereum was the altcoin that people really, one of the ones when obviously you had altcoins before that, but they never really gained any sort of traction. Whereas now Ethereum was actually building something, new and unique, and the protocol was something completely different from all the other types of altcoins that come before.
Yeah. Arguably, I think probably one of the most exciting times to actually come to, well, in your case, come back, but for anyone to actually discover crypto at that point, there was so much going on, wasn't there? It was such a formative time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I think because you didn't buy any Bitcoin in 2011, I'm afraid you just missed out on OG status.
Yeah.
You're sort of,
unfortunately not.
A wannabe OG.
Yeah, wannabe.
Okay, so, but you've rediscovered Bitcoin.
But in 2016, and then is when I started buying. Like I started accumulating Ethereum and Bitcoin. It was initially just to start trading it, but then obviously you want to know what is this currency I'm trading. That's why when I was doing the research at the same time, I was still accumulating, but trading it because it was very volatile at that stage as well.
Yeah.
So a good opportunity to trade it as well.
Yeah. Okay, so here you are. You've rediscovered crypto. You've fallen headfirst down the rabbit hole. You're working in startups, and this kind of brings us on to the big startup, if you like, Coin Bureau, because you are one of the co-founders of Coin Bureau.
Yeah, exactly. So at this stage this is when most of my time was being dedicated to just like crypto, right? I mean, obviously I had this other startup that I was working on, but then I thought I'm more passionate about crypto. I have a financial background. It's technology. I'm interested in fintech. I really want to get involved in this in some way, right? So sold out of the startup, and I thought to myself, so in the crypto space, what can I do? What do I want to do? And I want to be able to learn as much as possible about everything to do with crypto. And how do you usually do that? Well, generally, if you can understand a concept so well that you're able to produce content for people who are new to the space to understand it as well. So you can only really teach content or you can only really teach a concept if you are fully fluent in it in general, right? And an opportunity for me to learn as well was basically, let's start an education website or platform. So that's what we did. I mean, I saw the Coin Bureau domain on Flipper, bought it for $500, and we wanted to start a website. And then the other co-founder, Mark, I said to him, mate, we need to get writers who actually also understand and appreciate crypto. Do you know anyone? And he's like, yeah, I know a guy. And I'm like, well, I want to meet this guy. And then I mean, people know the story. Coin Bureau started. It was started as a website, started as just general web content, covering a lot of different aspects of crypto, from fundamentals of blockchain to altcoin reviews. And then obviously about 2019 time, we thought let's diversify to video content. Guy's the best looking among us, so
you could tell it was a pretty
exactly.
it was a pretty shallow pool to choose from.
Very shallow pool. And as they say, the rest is history, right? Obviously it's grown from there.
Yeah. Okay, so Coin Bureau is set up. We've kind of dug into the history of it. All the pieces have kind of come together. So Nick, what is it exactly that you do here? And I should warn you folks, there's no short answer to this, because Nick is, like I say, a very important part of it. But what's your role?
So we are still very much in startup mode. So, I wear a number of different hats. I would say if you wanted to characterize it in a bucket, more like a chief operation officer or operational role on the content side. So I'm very intimately involved in the whole end-to-end process, in the sense that obviously I'm involved with the research team in terms of choosing potential topics that we want to cover, analyzing which kind of content we want to push forward on the channel. That I'm involved in as well in the pre-production side, preparing the potential content, as well as quality control in the post-production. And then, of course, generally more in terms of helping in the social media side, in terms of coordinating with the social media managers around the pipeline and actually publishing the content, and thinking about strategy and growing these particular funnels, these social media funnels. So coordinating that whole process is actually that whole from end to end, and being a soundboard for anyone who wants into sort of questions with regards to other types of content teams working on other projects or content. So that's mostly what I've been covering the past 2 years. But over the past 6 months or so, more intently, I've been involved on the more strategic and business development side. Strategic in the sense that I'm looking to obviously think about how we're going to diversify the branding and the products and services we offer, looking at potentially new angles we want to take, whether it's with the content or whether it's with the places we want to present, and how we're going to diversify our branding across different verticals. And just generally strategically, where do we want to position ourselves for this bear market, and if we want to be covering any other sorts of financial content. And then on the business development side, obviously now that it's more collaborative, so how are we going to partner with potential other companies in the space to develop out these visions we have on the strategic side. So now to be more collaborative, to get to the networking, to meeting the other people in the space, because for the past 2 years or so, 3 years or so, we've just been very focused on producing the content we want for the channel and producing the videos and the reviews. Now it's about actually going out there and networking in the space and meeting people, and actually look into how we can, synergize our different efforts and business lines. And that's what we do now. Obviously, you've seen with our type of content, we diversified to more interview style, more collaborative style, and we'd like to do that as an organization as well.
And that's just before lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not exaggerating, guys. Nick is one of the hardest working, and I have to say, just most disciplined people I have ever met. He just keeps on going. But anyway, I think one of the big questions that people are going to be wondering now is crypto. What do you hold? What's in your portfolio? Shill us some altcoin. No, what are you holding? What are you excited about? What's your kind of preferred crypto niche, if any?
Yeah, obviously put our non-financial advice.
Not financial advice.
My portfolio is, on the high level, it's pretty similar to yours, I guess. So let me start at the top. Obviously, I got a pretty decent allocation to Bitcoin. Reason being, I think that, look, first of all, if anyone has a crypto portfolio and they don't have Bitcoin, they need to reassess, I think. And there's a number of reasons why. I mean, obviously, we know the narrative of Bitcoin. Obviously, digital gold. Obviously, it's a gateway drug for anybody, institutions and retail who haven't invested in crypto. They're going to go into Bitcoin, the granddaddy of cryptocurrency and all. It's a safe haven for people within the crypto space, because obviously, if you during bear markets and such, if there's most of the movement will come from altcoins into Bitcoin, so they'll see it as a relative safe haven. Yeah, I think that obviously there's a lot of exciting stuff happening with Bitcoin still within the bear markets. Obviously, you've got what's going on with potential adoption within countries, as a legal tender, and we got the halving next year. So there's a lot of exciting narratives happening around Bitcoin. So I've got a decent stack that from when I first bought, and I've been accumulating throughout the years. But I have a much bigger stack of Ethereum. And that's because ever since I first read up on Ethereum, I've been extremely bullish on it. And that's because whereas Bitcoin is digital cash, Ethereum is programmable money. This concept that you can have a decentralized virtual machine that could power the new world of finance. And the growth of DeFi has brought that forward to me, because it's like, this is where the traditional financial system, which is built around a bunch of centralized players on Wall Street, how it can be transformative for the broad society, because it is a network that is controlled by all of us, and it is finance run by smart contracts, right? So, and that's all built on, most of it's built on Ethereum as the predominant layer one. So obviously DeFi, I'm extremely bullish on DeFi, and thereby as a proponent of the fat protocol theory, so like value will go down towards the protocol layer. I'm obviously going to be bullish on Ethereum as well as the predominant layer one. And a protocol level, why am I bullish on Ethereum? Because of obviously what's happened since, for instance, last year. People underestimate how transformative the merge was, in the sense that you've had such a big upgrade of a consensus mechanism on a multi-billion-dollar blockchain that went off without a hitch. That's really quite something. And obviously now going forward, there's a lot of Ethereum could potentially go towards become a deflationary currency, because of once they start moving to their additional scaling solutions like sharding, etc., you're going to have much more transactional flow. There's going to increase the burn rates, and you're going to lead to deflationary monetary economics.
I mean, we've had some deflation already, haven't we? We've had deflationary days in a bear market, when you imagine transactional activity is fairly minimal,
relatively slow. And now put into the fact that if they're going to bring on these additional scaling solutions like shard chains, think about the TPS limits. We go in a massive here, so 1,000 or so, and as you move on to these different shard chains, you're going to have a lot more transactional flow, which is just going to increase the burn rate. So this whole notion of ultrasound money, it's not just a meme, it's true, right?
Yeah.
By the nature of supply and demand, it's just going to become a very valuable currency. So very bullish on Ethereum. Obviously, it's also, I do have alt one layer one hedges. Got a relatively decent stack of Avalanche. Now, on a fundamental level, why am I bullish on Avalanche? I think it's got a lot of funding, right? So it's raised a lot in the bull market, which is going to help it to build out its ecosystem going forward. It's got a very smart team behind it, and the technology itself is incredibly impressive. Obviously, very scalable. The Snow consensus protocol, and of course also in terms of user dynamic. Obviously, the TVL has been relatively flat, even though a lot of other layer ones where the TVL fallen off a cliff. User demand has been pretty flat as well, which means there's demand in the ecosystem, transactional flow as well. So I think that that's why I'm relatively bullish on Avalanche. And then also I think that recently there was news that Avalanche is working with AWS to integrate the blockchain. So that's Avalanche. I have a relatively small allocation to Cardano.
Okay. So BTC, ETH, AVAX, ADA.
Yeah, and then I also have a decent stack of Monero, which I've held for quite some time. And the reason on a fundamental level is because I think that Monero is, it is Satoshi's vision in terms of what Bitcoin was always meant to be.
Yeah.
And that's because now, Bitcoin, the whole idea of the anonymous cash, right? So, Bitcoin and most cryptocurrencies these days are not anonymous, right? They are not fungible. They're not fungible cash. And Monero is really one of the only privacy coins I think out there that is fully fungible, or there may be others, but Monero has the pedigree to it, and the technology behind Monero is just fascinating in the sense
it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Mind-blowing, exactly, yeah. As from a cryptography perspective, right? So, ring signatures, stealth addresses, ring CT, all of this technology has allowed this cryptocurrency to remain fully anonymous, and despite all of the best efforts by all agencies out there to crack this code, to crack the encryption on Monero, they still haven't been able to, which is testament to how resilient it is as a cryptocurrency. I'm not, although I'm bullish on the technology itself, I am aware of the fact that I've become less bullish on the price action, although it's been well more recently. The reason being, I think that although governments or agencies and exchanges can't crack the code necessarily, they can always limit liquidity, and they've been doing a pretty good job of that. Exchanges have been delisting Monero. I think that there is a shift towards attacking privacy coins in general, so they'll just limit the liquidity, and obviously that limits the potential for user adoption and limits the potential for its growth more generally, unless there are going to be alternatives in terms of off-chain solutions to cross-chain solutions. Obviously, there's atomic swaps on Monero right now, but I've tried to use those, and it's not really user-friendly at all. So, unless hopefully there'll be a solution around that front for decentralized mediums of exchange, but even then, to not have a solid fiat on-ramp or even Bitcoin on-ramp into Monero right now is going to limit its growth. So, as much as idealistically it's what cash should be and people should have the ability to use it, I think that it will be limited by the governments. Then I hold Monero, still idealistically aligned to it, so we'll see. And then just mostly now for the bear market, just lots of stablecoin.
Stables, yeah. No dog coins?
No dog coins,
certainly
unfortunately.
Certainly not any dog coins that you're going to admit to.
Unfortunately, no. I'm allergic to dogs.
Of all kinds.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. We've spoken for a long time about all things kind of Coin Bureau and crypto. Just to kind of finish off with, Nick, like as I say, you are an insanely hardworking guy, a very, very driven guy as well. What do you do to relax? What do you do when you're not working?
When I'm not working, well, I mean, so
how do you fill that half hour?
How do I fill
a week?
just the 1.5 hour week, yeah. I think it's like I obviously regularly try to go to the gym. Very health conscious individual, so I like to try to focus my time, and also so I'll do gym in the mornings before work and get my mind in the right space. It's the one time I don't have to constantly focus on crypto. I don't have markets, no phones. No phones connected, no charts, nothing. I wake up and I do my emails, but then I cut out the phones and everything, and just in that hour, in the gym, you just focus on your workout and focus on music, and you don't think about crypto. Everyone needs that time in their day, because otherwise you could go crazy. And then also sometimes during the day, sometimes I like to meditate, and also take my mind off the markets, get to recollect your thoughts, and just just de-stress completely, because it is very fast-paced, and just break up your day like that. And and then that's basically what I do to relax from it. And obviously, now, although it is the past 2-3 years have been so intense in terms of workload, I'm trying to now, on the side of the business development, at least the reason for being here in Dubai is to be able to go out and meet interesting people within the ecosystem. And I hope to be able to now find the time to do that as well, as we grow, to be able to go out there and meet interesting people in the crypto space, whether it's at events or whether it's at networkings and get-togethers, and just share the passion of crypto.
Cool, man. Yeah. Cool. Well, there you are, folks. Nick, who is, like I say, he's so integral to everything that we do here. He's a big part of Coin Bureau's success, a very unheralded part as well. Like I say, it was not easy to drag him out from behind his multiple computer screens. I should also say, Nick has more screens than I think the rest of us put together.
I'm the meme on crypto Twitter with basically 15 different screens. Our screen budget, you may think our office is for like 30 people.
He literally had to get a reinforced desk in order to cope with all his screens. Now, if that isn't dedication, if that isn't degen, I don't know what is. So, Nick, thanks for talking to me today, man. And I should say as well, thanks for all you do, because as I always say, I have a wonderful job. I get to take credit for all the hard work that everyone else here at Coin Bureau does, and none more so than Nick. Nick, you're integral to it. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
Thank you, man. And I'm glad you were that guy that knew about crypto back in the day, because otherwise we wouldn't have been here, right? It's serendipitous how things work, but here we are and living the dream. So the universe is a weird way of working.
It certainly does, doesn't it? It certainly does. Well, man, it's been an amazing few years, and I get the impression the next few years are going to be even more amazing. So,
play bear market bull, and then wait until the next bull. It's going to be crazy.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to try and get some more of my colleagues on camera. Trust me, if you think Nick has been hard to get on camera, some of them, wow, we'll see. But thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you very soon. It's not financial advice from him. Just because he used to work in finance doesn't mean it's financial.
I may have had an FCA credentials, but I'm not advised to disclose.